Charlotte Soccer Show. John Hayes, Danny Brams. It's good to see you, Danny. It's match week number 1 here on the show. And Charlotte FC is heading to Cascadia, Danny Brams. It's a big, long trip for the opening match of the season, and I'm excited.
I'm excited as well, Johnny. Great to see you this fine Friday morning. We're match day -1. And yeah, once again, just like last year, starting the season off with the longest road trip of the year. The first road trip is the longest road trip. I kind of like that. Get it out of the way. Last year, you remember Charlotte FC first away match was up in Vancouver. This year, it's in Seattle. The Cascadia is one of the most beautiful parts of the country, so the lads have a lot of beauty to look forward to, and it's great scenery for hopefully a big, maybe a famous win. I think you were when we spoke last, Johnny. We talked about a draw would be good out of this Seattle match. But as we get a little closer, I'm starting to sniff out maybe a win. Maybe 3 is on the offing.
Well, it's easier to believe that now, knowing that Seattle was in Guatemala this past week, just a few days ago at this point on Wednesday, right. Champions Cup match. And they started a pretty strong squad in that. So Seattle should be the team that is tired. And by the way, you were at the Dean Smith press conference on Thursday. And when we talk about taking a long trip, I thought Dean's reaction to that was absolutely hilarious. I want you to tell the Tifos, our tremendous friends of the show, exactly what Dean said about the travel. But I do want to point out specifically that it's actually Seattle who has traveled further this week by quite a bit. Right. Where they played in Guatemala is much further away than traveling to Charlotte. Yeah,
Guatemala is down there somewhere. It's quite far away for sure. Dino was asked at the press conference on Thursday, his weekly media avail. He said, someone said, are you worried about energy levels with this long trip or whatever? He said, these guys are flying first class charter on a plane with beds in it that they can lay down and sleep on the plane. They're going to get to Seattle in the morning. They're going to, Friday night, they're going to have a double. Each of them has their own double bed to sleep in. They can sleep. They can rest as long as they want. They can wake up, get room service. This is completely the life of luxury, basically. So he said, I don't want to hear about any energy issues. He said the UK is a smaller country than the United States by far, but you do most of the road trips by bus. So a 5-hour bus ride for a match in the UK is actually a longer trip than this flight out to Seattle. So I don't want to hear any excuses. And if anyone has any energy issues, then they're going to have to take it up with me. To which I responded, sounds like Dean's looking to maybe squeeze in 18 holes up there on his Saturday morning. No, I don't know. He sounded like it was going to be it's a business trip, but he said there's plenty of time for leisure along the way. So good things.
It's a 10:30 Eastern time kickoff on Apple TV, so all the fans are going to have to be up late on Saturday to catch this match. Obviously, a 7:30 kickoff in Seattle. But to your point, yes, the players will get there on Friday night, and they'll have plenty of time to kick back and relax, waiting for kickoff to take care of their bodies. Danny, you were at Dean Smith's press conference. You were also at Ashley Westwood's availability this week. And when we talk about, this squad traveling together, getting rest, this is the first time that this squad, the 2025 version of Charlotte FC, is getting on a plane together to go play a meaningful match. Yes, they've been to Miami to play friendlies. Yes, they've been to Coachella to play in the Coachella Invitational. And they traveled together. They've spent a lot of time together. At this point, you'd like to think that the chemistry exists, but it's really nice to hear Westy talk about this 2025 squad, Danny, being something that could be pretty special.
We hope so. We certainly hope so. We're building something. Like I said, we're to attract players like Wilf and Pep. Pep wanted to come back. We've got Leo. So, like I said, it's a squad that's moving in the right direction, and we're setting standards ourselves. We know what we want this year. We want to do better than last year, and I think we have got the squad to do that.
Wants to be better than last year, feels like he's got the squad to do it. Danny, you were there in the flesh. Do you believe those words?
Yeah, Westy was all smiles. You know how it is with these things. Like, there's the words they say, and then there's the body language. And Westy's always a guy who's in very good spirits. He loves to meet the local scribes and recorders. He loves to talk to people. He's a talker for sure. He's a people person. But I would have to say that he was very much, his body language and everything backed up with the words he was saying. And that was a response to a question of, is this the best Charlotte FC team you've ever had? And he said, we hope so, because we don't know what's going to happen. But what I would say, I think is inarguable, and I said this on the Decoding the Presser episode, which you can see later, slightly lower down in our YouTube feed, is that this is the best foundation that Charlotte's ever had to start a season. It may be the best season they ever have, it may not, but it's easily, without question, the best launch pad from which to begin a season, because you've got everybody in camp. You've got Dean's got his own DPs. Last year he had Kopetti and Swiderski, and Swiderski was gone by this time. And he said, they're DPs, but they're not my DPs. Now he's got Wilf Zaha and Liel Abada. And even there's an open slot as well to potentially fill later this year. But these are guys that Dean Smith chose and worked with Zorn and the scouting team to bring in. So you've got that. You've got Pep, who's not a DP, but I swear, Johnny, like, again, another thing you'll hear if you listen to the Decoding the Presser is that Dean can't stop gushing about Pep Biel. Dean cannot stop. Like, people ask him about someone else, and he spins it back to Pep. The magician of Mecklenburg, as we will hopefully get everybody calling him this year. Absolutely insane how much Dean just can't stop talking about Pep. I think Pep Biel is the type of guy who, much like a Carlos Heel, someone who, was playing in Europe and did some things in Europe, but never really sort of broke through in Europe, and then suddenly came to MLS and was one of the best players in the league. I think Pep has that chance. I still expect Zaha to be the guy, the DP that really gets all the headlines, but don't be surprised if Pep Biel is sort of that magic wand that stirs the drink, if you will, to mix metaphors like I like to do. But yeah, the situation where Charlotte FC finds itself to start the season is inarguably better than it ever has, for sure.
Pep Biel, if you've got a set of eyes and you watched him integrate into this squad last year, you could see immediately why Dean Smith really loves this guy, is because he is a connector. We talked about a player that could potentially connect the forward line with the midfield line and the back line. Pep Biel does exactly that, and Westy spoke about him as well.
I mean, we know what Pep can do. He was here last year, and he's had a pre-season with us now. He knows all the lads. We looked at a few videos from the Portland game. We need to be better at giving him the ball and where he can go and do his stuff, because when he gets on the ball, is magic. He's a real talented player. So yeah, it's the
He's magic. Is I think is the magician of Mecklenburg. Does it come from that clip there? Is that making the rounds? Stan?
I believe one of the tifos gave that moniker at late last year, and now we're trying to revive it and get it to go viral, if you will. But it's like, imagine everyone at the Fortress singing, "Oh, oh, oh, it's magic." I would absolutely love to see that happen. You can never. There's no accounting for what the crowd at Bank of America Stadium is going to sing, but that would be a good one to get going. And as you like to say, Johnny, Patrick and Pep in the pockets. I think Biel certainly established some chemistry with Big Pat last year, and that can only continue. And again, this is a guy who it wouldn't be funny if he went from a DP to a non-DP and then back to a DP. If he performs so well that he ends up just like filling that last DP slot, you never know. Could happen, I suppose. I think it's great that the club brought him back on a lower contract situation. But Pep Biel, he's just a cool dude. He's fun to watch. You follow him on Instagram. He's fully bought into this club. He's posting all kinds of stuff. His family is here. I think things are looking very, very up when you talk about Pep being here, and it's magic, Johnny. The optimism is just overflowing. Hopefully, you can see through the screen or through the speaker if you're listening that I'm just like super hyped up, because everything that Charlotte SC has done in this offseason. Another thing Dean said is he said, when last year ended, I gave every guy on this club, I had a one-on-one meeting with them and gave them my expectations for what they were going to do in the offseason, how they were going to improve their bodies. I gave them numbers to come back, with body fat and all, down to the decimal. And he said, not a single one has disappointed me. Everyone met their offseason goals and has come back, got on the Bronico plan apparently. And life is good in Charlotte FC camp for sure. Despite the the snowy weather we've had here in Charlotte. The lads look good as they've been going through training and making it happen. I mean, even Timmy Ream, he's 37 years old. You see him in some of the video we're watching here. He looks spry, you know. I mean, he looks like he's a reborn. Look at Westy, you know, just kind of, you know, urging the lads on and getting the guys. It's brilliant.
It is, and there's definitely that sense of togetherness always exists because of Ashley Westwood. When he's the captain of this team, he does such a great job with that, and it's funny. The season always starts in this type of cold weather. You're out there, you're dealing with the elements, and maybe there'll be some elements on Saturday night in Seattle, especially this time of year. So I think this team will be prepared to go out there and deal with whatever conditions present themselves. But one of the fun things about MLS, the way it is right now, the schedule is there is talk about moving the MLS schedule to reflect more of the global soccer calendar but how it is right now is it's going to be hot soon.
Yeah.
In Charlotte FC world, and kind of to see this when it is July and August and we're hanging out going to these Leagues Cup matches at Bank of America Stadium in 95-degree weather, we'll look back at this video of training and I think laugh a bit because this is not what the MLS season looks like. It could though in a couple of years. We'll find
just
that
pouring water all over myself in July for sure, no doubt, or beer. The best thing about this video that we're watching is the guys who are like toughing it out in shorts, and Dino's toughing it out in shorts. You see Ben Bender wearing the shorts and the bare legs and whatnot. So props to the guys who you know, going raw dogging it as in the parlance of our times here out in the snow. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fun to see them out there, and it's really fun to see Wilfried Zaha out there. And that is where this conversation changes a little bit, because when you have a guy like Wilfried Zaha, you stop talking about how Charlotte FC could be a good team this year. You stop talking about how Charlotte FC maybe could have its best year ever. And it's easy to say that when you're heading into your fourth season. But I think what you really start to think about and ask yourself is, you know, is Wilfried Zaha the kind of player that can help Charlotte FC win MLS Cup?
Yeah, we speak every morning. He's on our breakfast table, so he knows what to expect. But he's coming. He's been brilliant. He's settled in straight away. So credit to him for that. And we know what Wilf brings. He's a special player. We've seen him. I've played against him years in the Premier League. He's tormented many of my sides. So we know what Wilf can do. Hopefully he's up for it, but he's coming. He's certainly ready, and he's excited for the challenge.
Does he remember you fondly?
Probably not. Probably.
Some rough tackles on him over
There wasn't. I kept away from him. I didn't want him to show me up.
Of course, there's our friend Carol Walton from the Charlotte Ledger Football Friday newsletter. Hopefully that Football Friday newsletter will continue this season. I haven't seen it yet this year. I hope it does.
Probably dropping right now.
Probably, I hope so, on this match week 1 Friday. Always great to hear Carol. And she's got her follow-up questions always get the best out of Westy. But seriously, when you think about Wilfried Zaha and you hear him talking Westy about, you know, if he's up for it, right? That's the big question. If Wilfried Zaha is up for it, if he wants to kick on and use his skill set, this Charlotte FC team could be really strong, Danny. And there's a couple former guests of this show, our friends over there at Apple TV, Kaylin Kyle, and then of course Sasha Kleshkin, two folks who did their preview show this week and had a little chat about Wilfried Zaha and what he could mean to Charlotte FC. Take a listen.
With probably one of the most exciting offseason signings, signing Wilfried Zaha. That was something that they were lacking in their attack. You look at Dean Smith, structurally, defensively, he got everything right. Now, looking at what Zaha can bring to Charlotte, is this a team now where we're going to say they could potentially make a run for it, gentlemen?
I think Charlotte becomes a contender in the East with the Zaha signing. He's going to be the most electric dribbler in MLS, not named Lionel Messi, the way he can take players on in the final third and unlock a defense on the dribble and then make the final pass or score the goal, I think is massive for this Charlotte team. He's going to be a difference maker. They already have the best goalkeeper in MLS. They've got a solid defense. They've got a solid spine and organization to this team. They just needed somebody different, and I think Zaha gives them that.
High praise from two people whose opinions I really, really respect. And you could see, if you're watching on YouTube, you wouldn't have been able to see this. But if you're listening, let us tell you that Taylor Twellman was also he was a talking head on that show, and he was agreeing very adamantly with everything that Sasha Question was saying there.
He looked like a bobblehead doll there as Sasha was breaking it down. And the tune has changed, because when Sasha Question joined this show in the early season last year, he was kind of down on Charlotte FC. He was not necessarily singing our praises, but he knows we respect and a lot of the stuff Sasha said actually kind of did play out. So we know he knows what he's talking about. And so if he's feeling positive about things, and I like the fact that he said Wilf will be the best dribbler in MLS, not named Leo Messi. Ashley has talked about, Wilf is the kind of guy that three defenders can converge on him, and then all of a sudden he does a little turn, and he's free of all three of them. Dean Smith talked yesterday about how he predicted that Zaha will be the most fouled player in the league, because he's just so good at bringing contact on himself, keeping the ball, forcing defenders to foul him to try to stop him. So we hope he stays healthy, and nobody wants to get fouled all the time, but it is an interesting thought to think that there's a lot of free kicks that can be won and things like that. And Wilf Zaha, if you're not familiar with him, you got to get familiar, because he has the potential to be the most exciting player in the whole league. I know everyone loves Messi, but Messi's kind of, I don't know. Messi defies expectations. He's going to continue to do what he do. I'm not going to turn this into a Messi trash talk session, because that's always going to end up badly for me. But and Zaha is not a Leo Messi, but Wilf Zaha has. I've been saying he has the potential to be one of the very best players in the league, and I'll continue to say it for sure. It's all about with him, though. I do, just because I've been gushing. I want to try to have a little bit of an objective perspective here, Johnny. So I want to put it on you, because you highlighted that one little phrase that Ashley Westwood said in his comments, which were "if he's up for it." And when I was listening to Wilf Zaha's press conference, again, we got an episode on that in the YouTube feed, decoding the presser, everything, me breaking down everything Zaha said in his intro presser. There's a little bit of an almost, is he too laid back? Because he's a player who really shined for several years in the Premier League at Crystal Palace. And then he you'd have to say his time in Turkey was a bit of a failure. And then he tried to go play in Lyon in French league. He was a little bit of a failure, never really broke through there. And his response to that, you can take it one of two ways, because he's like, it just didn't work out. I'm not going to get too hot and bothered about the fact that it just didn't work out. I moved on. Now I'm here in MLS. I'm going to try to make it work here. I don't think it's necessarily a red flag, but it might be a little bit of a yellow flag for me that he's not like fired up. And it could just be like media training. It could just be media training, knowing not to say anything that's going to get people riled up or anything like that, because he has been a professional football player for so long. He's been coached about how to answer questions in press conferences. But I would have liked to see a little more of like things didn't work out in Turkey and France, and I'm pissed about it. I'm here to prove something. That was not what he was saying. He did mention that all I can do is prove myself by actions, not words. And so I like that. But I question it to you, Johnny, is it possible that someone could come in here and be too laid back and not potentially truly be up for it?
I think that's possible at this stage in the game, heading into the first game of the year, not knowing what to expect. Yes, he's gotten Zaha some minutes in preseason friendlies, but in no way, shape, or form has that truly introduced him into what MLS is. And in fact, I think that this game is the perfect opportunity for him to get a real window into MLS. Seattle Sounders is one of the best franchises in the league and has one of the best fan bases in the league. I expect the stadium on Saturday night in Seattle to be absolutely lit. I expect there to be a really, really good atmosphere there. And I think when Zaha walks out of the tunnel for his first MLS match, I think that's when he'll have the opportunity to flip the switch. And we've talked about him on this show, and so many people have for the last couple months, the last month or so, about what can Zaha do in MLS. Now, I'm excited to ask this question. What will he do on Saturday night? What will he do in this first match of the season? What are the expectations for that? Will he bag a goal? Will he get an assist? I think that Wilfried Zaha ends up on the score sheet on Saturday night. I think that the story comes Sunday after this match is, whoa, does Charlotte FC have one of the best players in the league?
Your lips to God's ears, Johnny. I love to hear that, especially because you're notoriously a little bit more difficult to impress than I am. I get impressed very easily. So if you're feeling it, then I'm feeling it for sure. You talk about Seattle being one of the best clubs in MLS. They always are, almost all the time. And I'm bringing up now on the screen here on the YouTube channel. If you're not watching, come follow us on YouTube to get these visual aids. But if you're just listening, we'll sort of break it down where this is the new Seattle, because Seattle is a team that doesn't rebuild, they reload. They bring back Jordan Morris, who was a goal scorer for them last year. They brought in Paulo Areola, who played in Dallas last year, and also Jesus Ferreira, who's a U.S. men's national guy. They lined up in Guatemala for their Champions Cup match with Ferreira at the 10. He got an assist. They brought in Albert Rusnak, who's one of the best midfielders in MLS. They brought him off the bench, and he scored a goal and actually won man of the match honors in 25 minutes of play just off the bench. He's been a little banged up. So Seattle and then they have their same back line that they played with last year with Jackson Reagan, Yamar Andrade as the center backs, Nuhu Tolo on the left back, Alex Roldan on the right back, Christian Roldan, the Roldan brothers, two of the better domestic players in MLS, although Alex doesn't play for the U.S. national. But this is a strong Seattle squad, and granted, the competition was not the strongest down against Antigua when they played in Guatemala. They're up 3-1 in a first leg tie of the Champions Cup, but I don't know. We have to hope that maybe we get a little bit of an advantage from them being less rested than we are. I'm not sure, but it's a new Seattle. What's his name? Rui Diaz is not there anymore. He didn't really contribute a ton last season, but we're gonna have to be on our toes. Seattle looks again to be one of the best teams in the league. They went to the Western Conference Final last year before losing to the eventual MLS Cup champs LA Galaxy, and they're a team that gets hot, that stays hot, and it's a great test for Charlotte FC in match one. And I think if Charlotte is to go get even 1 point or potentially 3, Zaha is going to be a big part of that. And another person who's going to be a big part of that is someone who's been proven that he knows how to score against Seattle Sounders as well when he's wearing the mighty black and blue.
Yeah, I'm ready to take you down memory lane. It's Patrick Agyemang and his goal against Seattle. We'll go there in a second. But first, what I wanted to say about this matchup specifically is that this could be hearing you go through the roster and first and foremost, it's basically Seattle is a who's who of average United States men's national team players. I mean, these are a bunch of guys that have gotten looks, but they're average. They're good, but they are national players. I think that this could be 2 of the best teams in the league meeting on Saturday night. That's what it feels like. It feels like this is an early matchup between 2 of the best teams in MLS this season. So we'll see how that plays out. Just remember that I told you that on Friday, February 21st, as we get into the fall, that these 2 could be the best 2 teams in the league this year. We'll see how that plays out. We talked about memory lane, and at this point in time, Patrick Agyemang and the United States men's national team wasn't even a thought in most people's minds. He hadn't even scored an MLS goal. And that was until it was late at the Fortress. Charlotte FC needed a goal. And Dean Smith picked up the phone, called Pat.
Nathan Byrne delivers. Flick header in! He's been a menace since coming on, Agyemang, and he got just enough of a touch to take that beyond Stefan Fry. First goal in Major League Soccer for the 12th man of the 2023 draft.
Incredible
from Patrick Agyemang. Was that goal before Dean Smith was hired?
That was actually
Yes.
that was Latanzio reluctantly picked up the phone and called Pat on that one. He's not big on young players, but
I thought I might have got that wrong. His debut was obviously before Dean Smith came in, and that was the first MLS goal for Pat. But I think the more important thing to do is, and I wanted to show this for a specific reason. Yes, go down memory lane and celebrate the fact that Pat did score his first MLS goal against Seattle. But I want you to watch this very closely again, because there's one big takeaway, and I think it's very poetic what happens on this highlight, Danny. So take a very, very close look.
Nathan Byrne. Byrne delivers. Flick header in! He's been in medicines coming on, Agyemang, and he got just enough of a touch to take that beyond Stefan Fry. First goal in Major League Soccer for the 12th man of the 2023 draft.
That was the moment, Danny. That was the moment when the torch was officially passed, because there was another striker that was lingering just behind Patrick Agyemang there, and Pat said, "No, I'll take care of this business for you." It was Karol Swiderski. Karol Swiderski in that moment was absolutely dwarfed by Patrick Agyemang. Patrick Agyemang went in there himself and made something happen. And I think anybody who was watching this team closely could see that moment as a wow. This kid is the future of Charlotte FC. And that's why, with all the Swiderski drama, with all the teeth mashing about him being a potential star for Charlotte FC, him wanting these transfers, that's why I was so adamant about getting that guy out, is that this replacement has been here since the very beginning. He's one of our own, Patrick Agyemang, and he's so much better than Karol Swiderski, it's not even funny.
Yeah, that's why Karol was so adamant about getting out this year. For a long time, Karol's whole thing was like, I want to leave so I can get back to Europe. But this year it became, I want to leave so I'm not stuck on the bench here sitting behind Pat Agyemang, and even Zoran said that he verbalized that in an offseason meeting that he had with some local media. I hope I'm not burning him too bad. It was mostly supposed to be off the record chat, but several months later, I can say that Zoran expressed the idea that if Swiderski didn't leave, he'd be sitting on the bench behind Agyemang, that Agyemang had locked down the starting job. And we know that just from the final match last year and the third match in round one playoff series against Orlando, when it came down to when it was truly finally win or go home, it was Agyemang who started that decisive game 3 and not Swiderski. So I think, yeah, like that goal is so sweet. That goal also, without that goal, that was sort of like about 2/3 of the way through the season, I believe, in 2023. But without that late equalizer, Charlotte does not make their first ever playoff, and you can toss up whether it was worth it to make that playoff and get humiliated by New York Red Bulls 5-2 back in 2023. Maybe it wasn't, but hey, I got a nice little playoff towel out of it. So I guess we'll take the good and the bad. But yeah, so that's a clutch goal, a stoppage time flick of the head to save a point at home against Seattle, and a sense of the moment that Patrick Agyemang showed even at that early stage of his career. He's continued to score big goals. He scored match winners against Nashville and other squads last year in big moments that helped Charlotte to earn an even better seed in the playoffs and get to the point where they could be playing in a first-round series instead of a play-in game. He's now scoring for U.S. men's national team. He's coming in. He's drawing penalties. He's scoring sick goals. He's coming in as a sub and scoring stoppage time, extra, like insurance goals or, cherry on top goals. The guy just can't stop scoring. And so I think the sky's the limit, as Ashley said, for Patrick, I think, right? We've got some, you want to hear what tee up what the captain has to say about Patrick?
We all watched him. We all know what he can do. He's a special talent. But not only that, he's a great boy as well. He's a good character, and now it's about us keeping his feet on the ground, not letting him get carried away. So us old boys will do our best at looking him after that. So, but sky's the limit for Pat. If he wants to, he can do. If he works on certain aspects of his game, he can go a long way. And we're all here to help him. That's for sure. And I want to see him go to the top.
Absolutely remarkable to hear Ashley Westwood speak that way about Patrick Agyemang. Something that is pretty impressive, all the way to the top. What does that mean to you, Danny?
To me, that means Golden Boot contender.
To me, that means English Premier League.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was thinking this year, but yeah. As far as 24, he's what, 24 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's right.
He's got time. Why not get him? If John Duran can go play in the Premier League, sparingly, but he went from Chicago to the Premier League. Why can't Patrick Agyemang?
Well, I think Patrick could end up in the Premier League the same way that Josh Sargent has ended up in the Premier League. You get signed into a championship club, you get promoted, and you ride the seesaw potentially there. I think Patrick is a plug and play at the championship level. The question just becomes: does a top level championship club want Patrick Agyemang? If that's the case, I think Pat could really help a team get promoted up in the Premier League. That's way down the line. But when I hear Ashley Westwood talking about going far in a young player's, a young striker's career, I'm thinking about that matriculation up to the highest levels of the game. And I don't want to get carried away, but Patrick is very unique. He's a one of one. And what that means is your value and your ceiling could be higher than a lot of other folks because of that unique ability, the size, the speed, the control. You just don't see it every day. What do you think he's going to do on Saturday night, Danny? He gets to start at the 9, and he plays up top with Zaha on the left side and Abada on the right. Is that how you see the formation up top on Saturday?
That is exactly how I see the formation. That's how I think they will line up. It's the only way, really. The one issue with Charlotte FC is the concern really is depth, and who are the backups going to be good enough to handle the load. But the starting 11, you look at the best 11 for Charlotte FC, and it looks like one of the best in the league to me. I think it's always tough to call goals. You and I and Danny Brackets and Brett Thompson were debating, what's the over/under on Patrick goals this year. I think the over/under was set at 22 by Brackets, if I'm not mistaken. 20. That's a large number. I'd be more than happy with just 20 goals. I'd be happy with 15 plus goals from Patrick this year, but I think he can get between 15 and 20. And I think that could start against Seattle. Seattle has an experienced back line, but they also play a little bit of a high line. They might be a little tired from their Champions Cup. I think there's a chance for Patrick to get in behind. I think Zaha presents sort of a wild card that Seattle may not be ready for. And I'd like to think Charlotte can score 2 goals against Seattle, with Pat, Zaha, and Pep all kind of figuring in there. Not sure who gets the goal, who gets the assist, but I see some combinations there. And I wonder if Patrick's going to be here this time next year. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We're heading into match day 1, but this time, you can see next January 2026, some championship club that's looking to make a push for promotion and being like, hey, we need to bring in a midseason reinforcement. Let's go to Major League Soccer and get Patrick Agyemang. I wouldn't put it past them. And like you say, he is a one of one because you rarely see a guy with that much physical, imposing presence and frame who's also such a twinkle toes and so talented with the control on the ball and his ability, his smarts of using that body. There's plenty of guys that have the big body, but Patrick is unique in his ability to use that body. And I think we're going to see it. And I think it starts on Saturday night. The more I talk, as I keep droning on and on here, all of a sudden I'm thinking, of course he's going to score against Seattle. Are you kidding me? Like who would doubt it?
My official prediction for the match is 2-1 Charlotte. I think Charlotte gets this win on Saturday night. I think they can score 2 goals. I think Christian Colina will play a huge part in net for this club. I think 1 goal Seattle can get 1 in, but even if Seattle scores first, I think Charlotte FC could score 2, come from behind and get this win. It just feels like a really good opportunity for Charlotte FC to get 3 points, to fly up there, to play Seattle on short rest, to feel like they have a club that is Charlotte FC, that is, to feel like the club is rested and really ready to get 3 points, because 3 points is massive with Atlanta looming on March 1st for the home opener. So that's my official prediction. What's yours, Danny?
You sold me. You sold me. I'm predicting a sort of not a shock, but sort of put the league on notice type of win. I think a lot of people that are being like, oh, Charlotte could be pretty good this year. By the end of Saturday night, I'm going to be like, wow, Charlotte looks incredible. And I think the defense will be just as strong. One thing of note is that as far as we know, according to Westwood, Dean Smith has not re-upped the whole bottle of wine per clean sheet for the back line offer that was such a viral thing last year. So I think at this point, it's not about, getting presents, getting gifts for clean sheets, because clean sheets are just expected. You know what you get for a clean sheet this year instead of a bottle of wine? You get a pat on the back and go do it again, because it's your job now. It's not something that like you need some special reward for. So I think, yes, it's Seattle at home with the attacking power they have is always a threat. Jordan Morris is always a threat to poach a goal. So it might be tough to predict a clean sheet on the road against Seattle, but I do think we can put some goals on them, and I think Charlotte puts the league on notice Saturday night and gets the 3 points.
I love to hear that, Danny. That's 2 predictions for a win on Saturday night. We'll see if it happens. Hopefully we didn't put the jinx on them, but it's a pleasure to do our first preview show of the season. It's Charlotte Soccer Show. Make sure you get in touch with us on X, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, anywhere you want to find Charlotte FC. You can find us. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Leave a comment. We'll be answering your questions next week.
Tell a friend to subscribe. If you're already subscribing, get someone else to subscribe. Go spread the message.
I hope you enjoyed our Charlotte to Cascadia Match Week 1 preview. Danny Brams, it's a pleasure to see you. I look forward to watching this match on Saturday night and talking about it, maybe even talking about it during the match. We'll see how that plays out on Saturday night. But until next time, as always,
for the crown, baby.